In the heart of Zentar Prime, a sprawling market teemed with exotic creatures and dazzling technology. The air buzzed with the voices of traders and the hum of alien machinery. Among the curious onlookers and busy merchants, a tall human stood out. James Harper, a former soldier from Earth, now found himself paraded on a platform, a symbol of human resilience amidst alien opulence. James scanned the crowd, his blue eyes sharp and alert. Memories of his capture flooded his mind. A surprise attack on his exploration vessel, the overwhelming force of the alien raiders, and his subsequent transport across galaxies. Each step he took in chains only solidified his resolve to survive and find a way back to his family. Sold. One human male, strong and healthy, to Lady Zara of Housefdal. The auctioneer's voice cut through the market's noise, marking the end of James' immediate struggle, but the beginning of another. Zara of Housefdal, a figure of elegance and authority, approached the platform. Her attire, a blend of shimmering fabrics and intricate designs, indicated her high status. Zara's eyes met James, and in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. She saw more than a mere slave. She saw potential, intelligence, and an unbroken spirit. "Follow me," Zara commanded, her voice steady and commanding yet not unkind. James hesitated briefly, his defiance flickering, but he obeyed. The alternative was too grim to contemplate. Zara led James through the labyrinthine streets to her estate, a marvel of alien architecture. Towering structures of glass and metal reflected the planet's 3 suns, creating an almost ethereal glow. Inside, the estate was no less impressive. Opulent rooms filled with alien artifacts and advanced technology contrasted sharply with James' memories of Earth. "You will work here," Zara said, guiding James to a spacious room. "You are not just a possession, James. I expect you to adapt and contribute." James studied Zara, trying to gauge her intentions. Her words were unconventional, her treatment of him unusually respectful for a slave owner. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice steady. "Insight," Zara replied. "Your perspective is valuable. I believe our societies can learn from each other." Days turned into weeks as James settled into his new role. He met other human slaves, each with their own story of capture and survival. Unlike James, many had resigned themselves to their fate, their spirits broken by the harsh realities of slavery. James, however, refused to give up. He observed, listened, and learned about the alien culture, their technology, and their societal structure. Zara often engaged James in discussions, her curiosity about Earth and its people evident. Their conversations, initially guarded, grew more open. James shared stories of his home, his family, and his dreams. In return, Zara spoke of her dissatisfaction with the rigid hierarchy of her society, her desire for change, and the hidden rebellion she secretly supported. One evening, as they walked through the estate's lush gardens, Zara confided in James. "There are those who oppose the current regime, who believe in equality between our species. I am one of them." James looked at her, a mix of surprise and admiration in his eyes. "Why tell me this?" "Because I need allies," Zara said. "And because I believe you can help." Before James could respond, a loud crash echoed through the garden. They turned to see a group of armed aliens, led by Lord Kellner, Zara's political rival, advancing towards them. "Lady Zara," Kellner sneered, "consorting with a human slave? You disgrace our kind." Zara stood her ground, her eyes fierce. "This is my estate, Kellner. You have no authority here." Kellner's men surrounded them, weapons drawn. James' military training kicked in. He scanned the environment, calculating their chances. Zara's safety, and perhaps the future of their cause, depended on what happened next. "You forget, Zara," Kellner said, his voice dripping with malice. "In these times, alliances can shift swiftly." James tightened his fists, ready to defend Zara. He knew their fight was just beginning. In the grand hall of Zara's estate, an opulent feast was underway. The room, adorned with luminous decorations and filled with an eclectic mix of alien aristocrats, was a display of wealth and influence. James Harper, now clothed in finer garments but still bound by his status, stood beside Zara, observing the unfamiliar customs with a keen eye. The air was thick with the murmur of conversations and the clinking of exotic glasses. Alien delicacies, unfamiliar to James, were laid out in an elaborate spread. Zara, ever the gracious host, moved through the crowd with effortless grace, acknowledging greetings and engaging in brief exchanges. As the feast progressed, Zara introduced James to the elite guests. "This is James Harper, a remarkable human," she said, her voice carrying both pride and a hint of defiance. The statement drew mixed reactions, ranging from curiosity to disdain. James felt the weight of their stares but remained composed. His mind was focused, always assessing, always planning. He noted the layout of the hall, the exits, and the placement of guards. His military training had taught him to remain vigilant, even in seemingly benign situations. Among the guests was Lord Kellner, a prominent figure with sharp features and a cold demeanor. His disdain for humans was palpable, and he made no effort to hide it. "A human in such fine company," he remarked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Quite the novelty." Zara met his gaze steadily. "James is more than a novelty, Kellner. He represents the potential for cooperation and understanding between our species." Kellner scoffed, his eyes narrowing. "Your progressive views are dangerous, Zara. They threaten the very fabric of our society." The exchange was tense, but Zara remained poised. Progress is often met with resistance, but it is necessary for growth. As the night wore on, James found himself engaged in conversation with an alien named Ryloth, a scientist with a keen interest in human culture. Ryloth's demeanor was friendly, his curiosity genuine. "Tell me, James, what drives humans to explore the stars despite the dangers?" James considered the question carefully. Curiosity, a desire to understand the universe, and the hope of finding new opportunities for our people. Ryloth nodded thoughtfully. "It is a noble pursuit. Perhaps we are not so different after all." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden commotion at the far end of the hall. An assassin, masked and armed with a lethal weapon, had infiltrated the feast. Panic erupted as the guests scrambled for safety. James' instincts took over. He moved swiftly, placing himself between the assassin and Zara. The assailant lunged, but James countered with a well-placed strike, disarming the attacker and neutralizing the threat. The room fell silent, all eyes on James. Zara approached, her expression a mix of gratitude and admiration. "You saved my life," she said quietly. "It's what I was trained to do," James replied, his voice steady. But beneath the calm exterior, he felt a growing sense of responsibility towards Zara and her cause. The failed assassination attempt intensified the already charged atmosphere. Kellner, visibly angered, addressed the assembly. "This is what happens when we lower our guard. We invite chaos into our midst." Zara stepped forward, her voice firm. "This act of violence will not deter us. We will continue to strive for a society built on mutual respect and cooperation." Kellner's eyes flashed with anger, but he remained silent, knowing he had lost this round. Later that night, as the guests departed and the hall quieted, Zara and James found a moment of respite in the estate's private garden. The tranquil setting was a stark contrast to the earlier chaos. "Thank you, James," Zara said, her voice soft. "I don't know what I would have done without you." James looked at her, seeing beyond the alien features to the determined individual beneath. "You're fighting for something important, something worth protecting. I'm with you, Zara, whatever it takes." A faint smile touched Zara's lips. "We have a long road ahead, but with allies like you, I believe we can make a difference." As they stood together under the alien stars, a messenger hurried into the garden, urgency evident in his stride. "Lady Zara, urgent news. The rebellion has been compromised. We must act quickly." In the dimly lit war room of Zara's estate, the atmosphere was tense. The walls, adorned with maps and tactical displays, reflected the gravity of the situation. Zara, James, and a handful of trusted allies gathered around a central table, studying the latest intelligence reports. "We've been compromised," the messenger had said. Those words still echoed in James' mind as he scanned the faces of those present. Each one showed a mix of determination and worry. Zara addressed the group. "We must act swiftly. Our enemies know of our plans, and we can expect an attack soon. We need to secure our resources and protect our people." James, leaning forward, added, "We need to relocate our base of operations. Staying here makes us vulnerable. I suggest we move to the old tunnels beneath the city. They are secure and less likely to be discovered." Ryloth, the scientist, nodded in agreement. "The tunnels are well hidden and have been used for decades. It's a sound plan." Zara looked at James, her eyes reflecting trust and resolve. "Then it's settled. We move tonight. Everyone, prepare for the transition." As the meeting concluded, James and Zara found a moment alone. "Thank you for your quick thinking, James," Zara said. "Your military experience is invaluable." James shrugged slightly. "It's what I was trained for. But this is different. We're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting for a future where our species can coexist." Zara smiled, a rare sight these days. "And we will succeed together." Night fell quickly, and the estate buzzed with activity. Rebels and loyalists alike moved silently, packing supplies and preparing for the relocation. James coordinated the efforts, ensuring that every detail was covered. As they descended into the tunnels, the atmosphere grew cooler and more oppressive. The tunnels were a labyrinth of ancient pathways, long forgotten by most of the city's inhabitants. The rebels set up their new base, establishing communication lines and securing entrances. In their makeshift command centers, Zara and James reviewed their next steps. "We need to strike back, but strategically," Zara said. "A direct confrontation is not an option. We need to weaken Kellner's influence from within." James nodded. "Sabotage and misinformation could be our best tools. We need to turn his allies against him, expose his corruption." Ryloth entered the room carrying a datapad. "I've intercepted some communications. Kellner is planning a major offensive. If we can leak this information to his rivals, it could destabilize his position." Zara's eyes lit up. "Excellent work, Ryloth. Let's proceed with this plan." The following days were a whirlwind of covert operations. James led small teams on sabotage missions, targeting key facilities and spreading disinformation. Zara used her political connections to sow discord among Kellner's allies. Their efforts began to pay off. Reports of infighting and disarray within Kellner's ranks reached them, boosting the morale of the rebellion. However, the constant threat of discovery kept everyone on edge. One evening, as James returned from a successful mission, he found Zara waiting for him in the command center. "We've made significant progress," she said. "But Kellner is growing desperate. He's called for reinforcements from other cities." James frowned. "We need a decisive move, something that will force his hand and expose his weakness." Zara nodded slowly. "We have one more card to play. Kellner's own advisor, Taris, has expressed discontent. If we can turn him, it could be the final blow to Kellner's power." James considered the plan. "It's risky, but worth it. I'll arrange a meeting with Taris." The next night, in the shadowed corners of a dilapidated building, James met Taris. The alien advisor was nervous, glancing around constantly. "You have a lot to gain by helping us," James said. "Kellner's downfall could mean a rise in your own power and a chance to reshape our society." Taris hesitated but finally nodded. "I will help, but I need assurances." "You have them," James replied. "But we need your cooperation now." Returning to the tunnels, James found Zara waiting, a grim expression on her face. "Kellner's forces are on the move. We need to strike now, or all our efforts will be for nothing." James nodded, steeling himself for the battle ahead. "Then we make our stand. Let's show them what we're capable of." In the concealed depths of the old tunnels, the rebels were readying themselves for the imminent confrontation. Zara and James stood at the forefront, their expressions resolute. The final push against Kellner was upon them, and every moment counted. James addressed the assembled rebels. "We've come a long way, and we've faced many challenges. Tonight we take a stand. We will strike at the heart of Kellner's operation and expose his treachery for all to see." The room buzzed with a mix of anticipation and determination. These were individuals from various backgrounds, united by a common goal. Each knew the risks but was committed to the cause. Zara stepped forward, her voice firm yet encouraging. "Our strength lies in our unity. Let us remember why we fight, for a future where our species can live together in harmony. Together we will succeed." With their plans finalized, the rebels moved through the tunnels, emerging into the city under the cover of darkness. They navigated the labyrinthine streets with precision, avoiding patrols and surveillance systems. Their target was a heavily fortified compound where Kellner and his loyalists had gathered. As they approached, James issued final instructions. "Remember, our primary objective is to capture Kellner alive. We need him to face justice and to reveal his crimes." The rebels split into teams, each assigned a specific task. James led the main assault team while Zara coordinated from a vantage point, ensuring communication and strategy were maintained. The initial breach was swift and silent. James and his team infiltrated the compound, disabling security systems and neutralizing guards. They moved with the efficiency of seasoned operatives, their training and preparation evident in every step. As they advanced deeper into the compound, resistance intensified. Kellner's forces, though taken by surprise, regrouped quickly. The sounds of combat echoed through the halls, the clash of weapons, the shouts of commands, and the occasional blast from a stun grenade. James fought with a singular focus, his military instincts guiding his actions. He could see the determination in the eyes of his comrades, a reflection of his own resolve. They pressed forward, room by room, corridor by corridor. In the control room, Zara monitored their progress, relaying information and adjusting tactics as needed. Ryloth stood beside her, providing technical support and ensuring their communications remained secure. "James," Zara's voice crackled over the comm, "Kellner is in the central chamber, heavily guarded. Be cautious." "Understood," James replied. "We're almost there." The final approach to the central chamber was the most challenging. Kellner's elite guards were well-trained and heavily armed. The rebels faced fierce opposition, but their determination never wavered. With a decisive push, James and his team breached the chamber. Inside, Kellner stood surrounded by his guards, his expression a mix of anger and desperation. "You think you can overthrow me?" he sneered. "You are nothing but a band of rebels." James stepped forward, his gaze unwavering. "Your reign of tyranny ends tonight, Kellner. Surrender now, and you might yet face a fair trial." Kellner laughed bitterly. "I will never surrender to the likes of you." A fierce battle ensued. The rebels fought with everything they had, each moment critical. James engaged Kellner directly, their clash a testament to the stakes of this confrontation. Despite Kellner's strength and skill, James' resolve proved stronger. With a final, decisive move, he disarmed Kellner and brought him to his knees. "It's over," James said, breathing heavily. "You will answer for your crimes." The remaining guards, seeing their leader defeated, surrendered. The rebels secured the chamber, ensuring no further threats. As dawn broke, the rebels emerged from the compound, Kellner in custody. The city was abuzz with the news. The tyrant had fallen, and a new era was dawning. In the aftermath, Zara and James stood together, overseeing the transition. The rebellion had succeeded, but much work remained. "This is just the beginning," Zara said quietly. "We have a long road ahead." James nodded. "We'll face it together as equals. Today, we've shown that change is possible." As the sun rose, bathing the city in a warm glow, the rebels gathered to celebrate their hard-won victory. Zara and James looked out over the crowd, their hearts filled with hope and determination for the future. The journey was far from over, but they were ready to build a new society united and free.